Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble. Volume 233. And we've got another episode of Agatha, and I just tweeted this out. Was this the episode that finally changed my opinion on this show? Tune in later to find out.
Like in a few minutes, I hope. But we will find out. I'm eager to hear what you thought about it. I will tell you, this is an episode that I think changed my wife's opinion, because she liked it well enough, but she was not like super excited for the next one every week. Even though, again, WandaVision, it's her favorite Marvel thing. Thor Ragnarok's the favorite movie, but WandaVision is just the favorite thing altogether. I'm like, this is the sequel to that. Like, it's so clearly the sequel to that. And I thought that was obvious before this week, but she finished this episode and turned around and said, "Can we watch episode 1?" Because she wanted to go back and revisit some episode 1 stuff now, looking at things with a different viewpoint. So, I mean, that's not a hard ask. So that's what we did.
Yeah, it's Fifth of Jack in the chat. Good evening. How's it going? We are well. We are very well. And David in the chat, look at these bad witches. Brock's in the chat. The wife has good taste.
Fair enough.
And off subject, have you started our other favorite show?
Our other favorite show? Oh, season 2?
Season 2?
Not season 2, no. No, Shrinking season 2 started with 2 episodes this week, and we decided to do a season 1 rewatch, but life got in the way of how fast we were getting through it. So we last night watched episode 6 of 10 of season 1. So we figure we'll just finish it, and when we get to it, it's fine. We'll just roll right into season 2. Please no spoilers, so I don't have to kill you.
Yeah.
And it was announced it got renewed for season 3 today. And
it did. I missed that one.
Yes, and I tell you, like, for me, that show is like Ted Lasso quality, and so
I would agree. Well, I mean, look who's partnered.
Look who's behind it. But the fact that it's in that same tier for me, like, just I'm thrilled that it got a 3rd season. So
yes, I missed that news. It's been a very busy week for me, and as I told you online, the quote of the week has been some people keep trying to skate uphill. Some people just keep trying to stay uphill, but no, we are going to be watching that either probably tomorrow night, because I've got a movie to watch, because I will be guesting on our friend's very good friend show, Lisa from I Love That Movie, this Sunday recording. So
are you allowed to say what movie at this point, or do you want to
I'll wait, because that's her show, and I don't want to I don't want to ruin the surprise. But it's not a movie I've seen. Obviously, I love this movie in particular, but I always like to, even though I've seen it countless times, I always love rewatching it. So we'll probably do Shrinking tomorrow, and I'll watch that movie on Saturday night.
There you go.
So, but overall, that's been my week. Very busy, very tired, so I'm looking forward to the weekend. But how's been your week?
It's been good. It's been a good week. One thing or another, I have missed somewhere between like 1 and 4 hours of work every day this week. It's all good though, and that trend should stop tomorrow. So, David, I should actually be at work for the whole day tomorrow.
Yeah, Fifth of Jack saying they were watching all of She-Hulk last night, and she's enjoying it. Yeah, She-Hulk. I actually appreciate She-Hulk, and I really enjoyed that show. It was a nice breath of fresh air, especially that final episode.
Yeah, that was different for sure. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it's good.
But anyway, so we've got Agatha episode 6 to talk about. So let's get into the lovely network plug. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with now 6 shows that cover the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you wanted a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. We've got our tip jar. Words are tough. We've got our tip jar as a $1 tier to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job, and then our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows. We've got 2 shows on there for Marvel Alliance. We can watch this all day. The Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch, 24 episodes covering the Infinity Saga, there for your listening pleasure, and soon to be getting ready to wrap up our current show, Tales from the House of X, where we are watching our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. We have gone through Deadpool, Deadpool 2, The Wolverine, Logan, X-Men, X2, and this Monday we have just recorded X-Men First Class, the penultimate episode of Tales from the House of X.
Yes, with some new observations on a rewatch of a movie that I quite enjoy but haven't seen in several years at this point. So.
And patrons, Brent reveals very early on that he shocked me.
My deep dark secret.
Yes, his deep dark secret regarding this film, his shame, his utter shame for that. But yes, if you want to hear what Brent's shame is, you must become a member of this Patreon. Look at that shameless plug and entice it. We're going to bring those Brent stands to the Patreon. So
yeah.
And so that'll drop at the last Monday of the month. I think you got about 2 more weeks for that, so the anticipation is palpable. I can't, just gotta resist. So, but yeah, so then we will record our final episode of From the Tales of House of X with X-Men Days of Future Past. So be on the lookout for that. And we've also some of the other network shows. DC Alliance has got their DC films through the years. Joe and his Multiverse Minutes, looking at 2 things. He's the workhorse of the Patreon, putting all of us to shame. 2 things he's got going on. He's got his Disney Deep Dives, the 1st and the 15th of every month, looking at going in chronological order, all the Disney theatrical animated classics, everything at that point. He just dropped a new episode, Cinderella. Just listen to it. Great deep dive into that behind the scenes stuff going on with that movie. And then he is currently in his 30+ days of Halloween, covering a lot of different ones. He's doing the Friday the 13th saga. He's doing the Conjuring series, that franchise, and a lot of other in-between ones that I've never seen, but I enjoy listening to it because, I like horror, but sometimes some of the stuff he's covered I've never heard of before, and I might give a chance. So check all that out. A lot of back content. So if you're not a member of our Patreon, go to www.patreon.com/GUA network so you can get all that lovely content. Again, patrons, we can't do this without your support, so we want to thank you. But if you can't be a member of our Patreon, we totally understand. Take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for Omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. You got the last probably a couple of hours, maybe a day or 2 left to lock in those final order cutoff pre-order prices for Fantastic Four Doom 2099, Marvel May 1965 Omnibus. You got a lot of Marvel Masterworks, Annihilation coming back into print in omnibus format. It's a lot of great stuff. So use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. And we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, Brent, next week, big week. What is it?
It's a double header for us, 2 shows. We got Agatha and Venom. And it's been
Which one are you more excited about?
Absolutely Agatha. And that is I don't even mean to throw shade about Venom. I'm just very eager to see where Agatha goes from here. But I will throw shade at Venom because,
it's Sony.
It's Venom. But regardless, it's been a long time since we had 2 in the same week.
Yeah, it has been a very, very long time. I don't even remember the last time we've had this happen. It's been a bit.
Maybe, it's happened before with What If and Loki. Maybe it's happened with
maybe Miss Marvel.
Loki.
Miss Marvel. No, Miss Marvel. The Marvels and was it Loki?
I don't think it was Loki.
Okay. Well, anyways, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
At this point, it doesn't matter. But so recording is going to get a little different next week. So next week, with Venom releasing, Brent and I, as typical on Thursday night, we're going to see the movie. Obviously, we don't live in the same thing, but that's when we go see the movie on preview night. So we will not be recording an episode on Thursday. So there will not be probably anything in the feeds for Friday morning. However, you get a double dose of stuff. So this is what's happening. We will be recording our review of Agatha All Along, episode 8. 8? Hold on. Seven. Episode 7, excuse me. So we'll record the next episode, episode 7, on Friday. It will not be live. We're recording it before we go live with our Venom The Last Dance spoiler review. So the Agatha review will drop separately on Saturday morning. And then at around 9:10, it's all going to depend on how quickly we finish our recording. It'll just be Agatha. There'll be nothing on that episode, just Agatha. We're not doing Fact or Fiction, Comic Book Club. We're going to put a pause on everything except for that so we can get that recording done so we can head into the Venom The Last Dance spoiler review around our normal time on Friday night, 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. So we apologize if we are a little bit late. We will be adjusting the time, but bear with us on that. And that will also drop Saturday morning. So you get 2 episodes of Marvel Alliance this week. Can you imagine that? 2 for the price of whatever.
Right. And yeah, it has to be episode 7 of Agatha because next week is episodes 8 and 9. The final, we get both the penultimate and the final episode on the same night next week. So or not next week, but 2 weeks from now.
So there'll be some shifts for the following week because it's Halloween, but we're not going to cover that now. We'll cover that in the next 2 episodes about those shifts at that point. So again, next week, we're not recording anything live on Thursday. Nothing's being recorded. You'll have nothing in your feeds for Marvel Alliance on Friday morning, but Friday night, we're recording Agatha, episode 7, not live. That'll drop Saturday morning. Then we go live with our Venom The Last Dance spoiler review around 9:10. That'll also drop Saturday morning. So you get a lot of content. We're excited to talk about Agatha. And you know what? It's going to be a funny discussion about Venom The Last Dance. I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised, but so far, we'll see.
Which episode will be longer? We will find out.
Yes, we will see. All right, Brent. So that's all the programming notes. So let's get into this. Agatha All Along, episode 6, Familiar by Thy Side. So tell me your non-spoiler thoughts.
Last week I told you that it was the shortest episode, and sure, it could have used a couple more minutes, but it was I thought my favorite episode of the season last week, right? Well, this week, again, I think this week topped last week's by quite a bit. Fantastic episode. Easily the best one. It's not even close in my opinion. And I don't feel that it really needed a couple more minutes. This was a longer episode. I don't remember what it was. Somewhere around 45 minutes, something like that, not counting credits. But regardless, it was a longer episode, and I felt like it actually had the time to sit on some scenes, to actually flesh some things out, to give us some details that I thought were really interesting, to make us look at teen with a different light. And it... I've been thinking, and I think I've mentioned this to you off air a couple times. I feel like this is going to be a show that a rewatch is going to be really different, like when you can binge the whole thing. And absolutely, I am now full on to believe that rewatching the show with what we've learned tonight is going to be quite illuminating.
Yeah, this. I knew going into this. I only saw there was a lot of spoiler-ish stuff. I heard even you messaged me about some stuff that was dropping. I saw some stuff from the EW interview. It was nothing spoilery enough that I needed to be warned, but what I did know was that when Jake Lloyd did his interview with Entertainment Weekly, he said the next episode was going to focus on the backstory of him. So that kind of piqued my interest. I said, okay, I think a lot of times, and I trying to think about where they haven't done a good job with this, is when reflecting on this episode and thinking back, we say that this is the sequel to WandaVision. This really had ties to how the Monica Rambeau episode was. I got a lot of it would just not beats, but it just felt like the pacing was very similar.
the backstory stuff for me, what I thought of was episode 8 of WandaVision, which is still my like cream of the crop for stuff that Disney has done as far as the TV shows go, which was uh the previously episode called Previously On, where we go through and we get Wanda's history and we see how she gets to where she's at. That is basically what happened with Teen here. I guess that's a little spoiler, but and the way they did that I thought was really, really well done. And I don't know. I'll tell you, it's not the only show this week that I watched that focused largely on backstory of a character. And I'm like, man, it's weird that it happens twice, but it's pretty awesome this week.
And I've not seen. This is probably the first time I've seen Jake. I don't think I've ever seen Jake Lloyd in any kind of project.
I don't.
So
I didn't know him in anything else. I know
yes,
he's been in like Stranger Things, some other stuff. But I don't know him from anything else.
and I've heard very positive things. He's definitely an up and comer, and this was the episode to really change my opinion of his character, because it just seemed to be, I didn't know where he was going, but that turn last week made me think, okay, this is where I can kind of see exactly what your range is and how we're going to take this character, because that was been the big question with the revelation that happened last week. Where are we going? What origin are we going with this character? How are we gonna make this happen? So yeah. So let us. Anything else you want to talk about before?
No, let's take a break and then get into it.
Let's take a break. Yeah, so we can stop dancing around this. So, all right, listeners. So if you have not seen episode 6 of let's say WandaVision, of Agatha All Along, stop, watch it, and then come back. So we're gonna go over the spoiler roll with this. So. Ladies and gentlemen, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They can be a bit loud. They can repeat it. And if you're in the United States, you're going to get a lot of political ads, and we greatly apologize for that. But now's that time to turn the volume down, skip ahead a little bit if you need to, and we will see you in a little bit. So 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so we start this with Teen. Now we are assuming the name is. We're just going to say it. His name's Billy Kaplan.
Yes.
All right, we're just going to.
At this point, we can just say
we're just going to say it's Billy Kaplan. So
he's going by William. For a good
yes.
chunk of the episode, but it's Billy.
Yeah. And he is getting ready in a synagogue, donning his blue yarmulke. So you got to like that wink and nod at that point. And he's preparing his rites for his bar mitzvah. And basically, for those that don't know, it's his 13th birthday party and marks the boy in the Jewish faith, the boy's transition into manhood. His parents, played by Paul Adelson and Maria Dezia, follow him down the aisle before he reads the Torah and chants. Now, I saw very recently someone kind of breaking down exactly what he read from the Torah, and I did not get a chance to kind of mark that down. But if you look up some stuff, it's like with everything, he's just not reading something from the Torah that doesn't apply to what's either going on or getting ready to happen. So what did you think about that kind of opening to kind of establish Billy?
Well, Brock pointed out to me that, at least in the comics, Billy is, the movies remain to be seen, but in the comics, Billy is the grandson of Magneto. Mm-hmm. And he's Jewish in this incarnation of the character. And honestly, I don't know about in the comics, but I don't know if he's practicing Jewish, but he is here, and I think that's a really good touch. Nice catch on that by Brock's point. Mm-hmm. Good opening. I was excited to see him. You mentioned Paul Adelson in it. Mm-hmm. I've got a soft spot for him because he was in Prison Break, one of my all-time favorite shows. So anytime he shows up, I just have to smile, look at my wife, and say he's in Prison Break, and she just rolls her eyes at me and says she knows. But just anytime I enjoy him. So that was a cool surprise. Overall, I'm like, great, we are getting the flashback episode. When's the switch happening? Yep. When's the switch? Like, I know it's coming. How do we get there? When's it happening? But some interesting stuff happens before that.
Yeah, so we get into the party, and he's dancing and having a good time. And then he goes into this kind of tent on the inside, and it's a palm reading. And who is there to read his palm?
Lilia?
Yes, Lilia Caldor. Calderu is there. And we did not think that they knew each other or hadn't run in. So she comes in and looks at his palm, and she says I predict a long journey ahead for him, and one of transformation, and then at that moment the lights flicker in the tent, and Lilia reveals your lifeline is broken in two. And after she sees the goth version of Teen in her crystal ball. Now, something else has broken, not just in two, but in many things. What else has broken in the MCU?
In the MCU, oh gosh. Well, there's Vision. Vision has broken into many things. The Infinity Stones have broken into many things. Wanda's power has broken. What do you mean specifically?
I mean the sacred timeline has broken as well, just like a branch.
I guess broke. I don't know if I'd use the word broken, but
breaking.
I will allow it.
But around the tent, you can actually see some tapestry there. One of them, the tarot cards, is the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune tarot card actually represents cyclical change, and the nature of that change is based on how the card is positioned. Either it's reversed or upright. So that changes the meaning of the card, like with a lot of things with tarot cards do. Lilia also pulls a card of the Tower of Reversed. That tarot card, and it represents at that point imminent crisis and change is on the horizon. That's not foreshadowing at all.
Right. The whole imminent crisis thing, and going back, watching it over, it's so obvious what's going to happen to him. But at this point, it's like we don't know in what form that crisis is going to take. I love the way that they tied it into WandaVision, though.
Yeah, and Brock actually says he believes that the Torah reference was relating to two brothers.
It does, according to the TikTok that Brock sent me earlier.
Okay, so we'll go with that. Thank you, Brock. I appreciate it. I couldn't remember, but I knew it tied into it. So she says, I just remembered something. I think she said, Teen didn't stay to get his palm fully finished being read. Lilia called him a good egg and told him to enjoy the now, which is the only thing that's certain. So she can see the future. She says the whole palm reading thing was just BS and a con. So she knows something. So after Teen leaves, she on this piece of like wood, she sketches the mark that matches the sigil onto the block of wood and places it in a suit coat pocket, which he left behind. Now, you got to notice how her facial movements kind of happen and her reactions. When Lilia does this, she almost looks like she's been come over with something, taken over based on her facial expression. Like she just has a sudden change in her look and expression. My question is, did she do this knowing his future, or a possibility, did Wanda possibly influence her to do this? And then as soon as she does it, she snaps back into reality.
Man, that's a tough choice.
But here's my other counter to my own point. Here's another thing. Remember, though, Agatha did say that, when
whoever
that sigil, witches don't work with sigils because it affects the witch who actually uses it. So it's a big pain and annoying to them.
While I won't completely discount the option or the possibility of Wanda being behind it, controlling her mind, at that point, because we know where this syncs up basically with with WandaVision, at that point, she was so preoccupied and she was losing her control over the citizens of Westview. I don't see her reaching out and controlling someone in Eastview at the time. I feel like it was more of Lilia just almost trying to protect herself, or even potentially protect the boy. Just, stop what potentially could happen here, because she probably could sense the magic and what was going on in Westview, and wisely wanted nothing to do with it. And especially if she happened to know Agatha was around. And so that would be my anticipation at this point with the knowledge we have.
Yeah, it just kind of caught me that my second watch, I said, man, that's very interesting how she kind of flips into one moment, flips out of the next. And then when she exits, she gives the coat to the woman, and who looks like Agatha from the side profile if you do a quick glance. And for some reason, she says she can't remember which kid left it behind.
Like it completely wiped him from her memory.
Yep. So then Billy's father takes the stage and says they need to stop. Everyone needs to leave because something's happened with the anomaly in Westview. So, like you said, at this moment, we know where we are in relation to the timeline of what's going on.
Right.
So phone alerts tell people to go home. The party is dismantled. The Agatha-like figure might have just been Rebecca Kaplan because she has Billy's jacket when they get to the bar when they flee the bar mitzvah. So the police race towards the scene. Wanda's voice can be actually heard over the radio in the airways as they flip it. They actually hear the one from I think the very first episode.
My husband and his indestructible head.
Yep.
Is what they said.
So Billy pulls the wood block out of his coat pocket, looks at it, and then his parents gets distracted by the hex shrinking, and Billy calls to their attention as they veer from a large pickup truck, swerves off the road, crashes into a tree, and Billy is knocked unconscious and is basically dying because of the impact that he's felt.
It is, and they go to get help. Alice shows up. You know, she was a police officer at this point. We understand why Lilia doesn't remember who Billy is. Well, I think we can understand why Billy doesn't know who Lilia was because of what's happened to him. Alice, I feel like maybe you could justify it, or you could say, well, she's a police officer. She's probably helped a billion people and had a billion cases since, so we can let that go. I do have a point that I would like to make on my wife's behalf that she wanted to bring up. But it's related to the car crash, and we need to get to our time jump first because that's a relevant part.
Okay, so as he's basically lying, dying, his heartbeat slowing down. Then the soul of Billy Maximoff seems to enter his body and calls out Tommy. Next, Billy is in an ambulance headed to the hospital with his parents, not remembering what happened. So, I've got some comic book stuff to kind of talk about with where we get to the origin. So now I want to say one thing that relates to WandaVision, though. Remember, Wanda herself has chaos energy. However, at the end of Infinity Saga, at the end of Infinity War, she also has the Mind Stone energy. We see that in WandaVision. That allows her to quote unquote create life. That's how she creates Vision. That's how she creates the twins at that point. So, and it's very similar to what I call him Hex Vision does to Snow Vision by giving him his life to really kind of get him back in order. So in the comics, Bill Mantlo and Rick Leonardi had a limited series with Scarlet Witch and Vision where Wanda used the residual energy from Agatha's death to create the twins. Then John Byrne said, you know what? I'm going to do something different. He changed this in West Coast Avengers to say that the twins were never real and just shards of Mephisto's soul.
Right.
Then, spoiler alert, for when we get into this, we will be dealing with this in Young Avengers, that Wanda reconfigured those shards of Mephisto's soul, permanently altering them so that they were reincarnated into the two teenage boys. So that is where I think they are leaning more towards this.
Clearly.
Minus right now, outside of the mention, we do know Mephisto exists. We don't know if Mephisto is tied to this, which right now it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be. And side note, Jen is... the comic version of Jen is basically a descendant of like one of the earliest Ghost Riders and has some ties to Mephisto and from back then. So I do think like when I learned that, I was like, oh, it's interesting because Jen is the one in episode 3, I think it was, the first trial that mentioned that Agatha's son, we don't know what happened to him. He could have become an agent of Mephisto.
Yeah, we don't know, but that's kind of where we're leaning to, and that's where typically recent runs seem to get the better treatment at that point of what they're going to do with, because that's what people connect to. Anyway, so in his hospital, his bracelet, we see the pans over, has his bracelet reads, Kaplan William. His dad calls him Buddy, and he waits for Billy to point out that he doesn't normally do that. And it seems like Billy can read their minds because he hears their voices, and they kind of give each other a look, and they're looking like, they're not necessarily happy with each other. And he tells them not to fight, but his dad says they aren't. So they think he's got amnesia. He's got some sort of temporary amnesia, and it's supposed to subside soon. So they've got bouquets, get well balloons. The parents take him back home. And while he looks at the photos on the wall, it seems he feels out of place. And the dog catches Billy by surprise and barks at him like he doesn't recognize him. Gotta love that little tip of the hat to
The dog could tell.
yeah, that's a very big kind of supernatural horror suspense kind of trope that they do. Animals can recognize where people are possessed.
Yeah.
So Billy yells at his parents to stop worrying because he can hear their thoughts again as they voice concerns about him in their inner monologues. He says, maybe I just need to see my room, he says to his mom, and she doesn't say that out loud. He volunteers to go upstairs alone. So in his room, lots of posters. Harry Houdini, Alice in Wonderland. Imagine that. The Wizard of Oz, because this show is nothing but Wizard of Oz references. See a poster for Goofballs, which I think is an homage to the Goonies.
That's what I thought as well, but I wasn't sure, so glad you took it that way.
Yep, so I'm taking it that way. Many other posters at that point. He stares at a photo of him and his parents in what looks like they were in Hawaii. And then he looks in the mirror, and then he says, my name is William Kaplan 3 times. Well, I don't know if Beetlejuice is supposed to come out at that point. But or he's, his name is William Kaplan, Fight Club or anything like that. But he's obviously trying to get used to. So now we know the real Billy Kaplan is dead. He has taken over this body. And it is really Billy Maximoff. This energy of Billy Maximoff is now inhabiting this body. So what did you think about all that kind of happening in this kind of time? What did you think about this transition?
I thought they did a great job of showing the way he was feeling overwhelmed from hearing his parents' thoughts, from hearing their panic. Now they were doing a great job
very Daredevil, like
of not showing any of it. Like they weren't showing their panic on the outside. If Billy didn't have this ability to read their minds or to hear their thoughts or telepathy, whatever you want to call it, then he would never have known they were as panicked as they really were. Credit to them for not showing it, but unfortunately, Billy could, and he like the way he reacted to it, I just felt so genuine. Like panicked, overwhelmed, leave me alone. He probably just wants to scream, I don't know who you guys are, and he clearly doesn't know who he is at this point. Like there is actually some amnesia there. It's just it's not William Kaplan that had amnesia. It was Billy, son of Wanda, who had amnesia.
Yeah, so we do a big flash forward 3 years later. So correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, you're usually better about this than I am. I think we are now at 2026 in the MCU timeline of this point in time.
Let's see, 2018, 2023. Yes, 2026 would be accurate.
So Wanda is now dead. We do know that because of where Multiverse of Madness takes place at this point. And he is sitting in a car. He has changed his look pretty decently.
Before you go further.
Yeah.
This is what Jen pointed out to me.
Okay.
Remember I said she rewatched the first episode. She wasn't looking for this in particular but in the first episode, think back, listener, to when Rio brings the pizza to Agatha's house. Okay. Yep. They're talking a little bit about the case. They're eating pizza. They're chit-chatting. They hear Billy upstairs in the attic or the bedroom, whatever it is. And that kicks off those events, right? One of the things that Agatha says to Rio is she heard about a car crash that happened outside Eastview with bloodstains in the back seat and both front airbags deployed. It sounds identical to the car crash that the Kaplan family went through.
It is.
But the timeline doesn't match up.
Oh.
The timeline can't match up for it.
No, you're right, yeah.
Because that happened when he was still William, and 3 years later when he's Billy and in her house, she had just found out about it because she had only been doing her true crime thing for a few days, according to, I forgot what his real name is supposed to be, but Herb, the guy who played Herb in the WandaVision era. And so the timeline doesn't quite match up, but I'm wondering, like, was she sensing something? Is there something there? Maybe it won't even come back up, but it's some sort of magical elements that are finally breaking through to Agatha, because Agatha was at this point physically close to Billy. Like he was there. So I don't know. Just wanted to throw it out there, point it out, because I did think it was interesting. but the timeline doesn't match up for it to be the exact same wreck.
That's a good point. But I mean, when I heard that, I didn't even think about timeline. But you're right. But it's almost like it's that's very specific and the only thing we've ever seen. You know,
If Billy was not in her house during that conversation, I would I don't know. I'd be a little more open to it. Or they just had a mistake with the 3 years later card, like they did in Spider-Man: Homecoming when they said 8 years later. But for right now, we don't have, like, the logic dictates and shows that like that it all fits because Agatha was also told by Herb that she was there when she breaks out of her spell. She had been there for about 3 years.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, well, good point. I didn't even think about that. So yeah, he is sitting. He's gotten a little more like emo goth like in that sense. Just a little bit, and he's sitting in his car with a young man, looks to be his boyfriend, and who grabs a sigil puzzle block and asks him what it is, and his boyfriend asks Billy if Billy has solved it, but he says it's impossible, and he hears what he's thinking, and he says "I love you" to him, and he hints that something happens to him when he is around people who have intense feelings. He says he died the night of the car accident and that he's been different ever since he's come back. He says, "I'm not William Kaplan, at least not entirely." And he still doesn't remember anything from before the accident. He wants to know this and true to himself, so because he loves him too, he tells him. So his boyfriend asks, like, if you're not William Kaplan, who are you? And Billy takes him up to his room and shows him this huge, like, we call it the, like in Smallville, the wall of weird.
The wall of weird, kind of, yeah.
So look at all the photos, the dossier he's completed, he's compiled. His boyfriend asks him what he thought of the hex. He thought the hex was some sort of Avengers training exercise gone wrong. That's a very interesting line considering Rhodey used a very similar line in Iron Man 1.
Yeah. I thought the line when Billy told Eddie was his name. We need to come back to that. Yep. I thought that line when he said, "No, you need to keep your shirt on. I can't look at your arms while I'm talking about this." I thought that was pretty funny.
That was funny. You're right. That was funny. So Jennifer Kale's we wanted to show him something with the hex. Jennifer Kale's ad comes on, and they make a comment saying that's her complexion or whatever, how good her skin looks is just unreal. Mm-hmm. But her viewers and subscribers, if you take a look at it, they're not too good. So
I didn't see that.
Yeah. So he shows Eddie the runes in the red in the hex at that point, and they calling it a spell, a witchcraft. And Billy found a guy who used to live there, who was going to meet the next day. That's trusting.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Meet some random person like that. That's
I've seen that Lifetime special. I don't think it works out quite well.
Yeah, especially in 2024. I don't know, like or 2026. Real quick because it won't really come back up again.
Yeah.
Eddie in the comics, Billy is dating Teddy, and
yes,
Teddy is Hulkling. And so
Teddy comes back later.
When we saw him, I was like, is this gonna be Teddy? No, it's Eddie. So close. I'm like, what are you doing to me, guy?
Eddie.
Maybe they're changing the names. David's pointed out maybe they just don't want to settle on the actor yet for Teddy, if they're going to even do Hulkling at all. But regardless, it's what I thought of when I saw the Eddie character.
Are you sure it's not Eddie?
I am sure. Don't do that. I'm very sure. I'm sure. I reject that.
Okay, I'll slip it in here and there. All right, so the guy they're meeting he goes by the handle of Bonerific Nut 69.
The laughter I had.
Oh my god! As soon as I heard that, I said, "Oh, Brent's gonna have a good time with this." I
thought that was so funny.
So a creepy guy in a trench coat hiding in the shadows. He's starting to block the security cameras, and or either remove something, I don't know. He put something on there, removed it, whatever. So Billy goes and confronts a person, and it's none other than who?
Ralph Boner himself.
Evan Peters has made his... Now, did you... I want to say It wasn't me. I want to say you're the one who made, or maybe it was Travis, despite his hatred towards the character. One of you had a fact or fiction saying Ralph Boner would
Um,
return.
hang on, I can look at mine.
Oh, while you're looking at that point, it keyed something off with
It
that.
was
So
me. It was me.
it was you.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ralph Boner will appear.
How many?
in Agatha.
How long ago?
Oh my gosh, a lot. Let's see, that was on line 115. Oh gosh, like 50 Factor Fictions ago.
Goodness
So
gracious! You
divide
played
by
the long
three.
game on that one.
Yes, love it though. That's so good. So good.
So Wanda's false brother Pietro from the Hex has returned. He tells him to call him Randall. He remembers Wanda's hex, and when Billy says Wanda Maximoff, he does not react kindly to that. His hat actually has a rune made of chicken bones, and I think it's there to try to protect him from his mind being taken over again.
Probably because if only the witch who casts the runes can do magic within the runes from WandaVision, so he's probably thinking no one else can do magic within his head. Probably.
Yes. So Billy, so he talks. Randall talks about how Agatha hijacked his life, wielding an object that looks maybe the warding off the witches, as I mentioned. She called me her husband, but I was her puppet. She stole my house, completely ruined the market value. She made me do horrible things. I kept a woman hostage. I was terrible influence on Wanda and Vision's kids, and I poisoned a dog. I thought Agatha killed it.
Agatha killed Sparky. He clearly was the method by which she did that.
Yes, so
We saw her controlling his mind in the Agatha All Along montage song.
yeah,
and clearly that's how the dog got. She got to the dog also.
yeah, it was a very special episode, if I remember correctly.
It was a very special episode.
So Billy asks about Wanda's kids, twins named Billy and Tommy, as revealed by Bonerific, and Billy reacts to Tommy, saying that the little speedster and his mind-reading brother Randall described. When he asks about what happened, Randall says Wanda's dead, Vision's being sold for parts, and the twins have just disappeared. Randall thinks that the twins got sucked up into the red bubble like everyone else. We even hear, if you pay attention, you even hear a little bit of the WandaVision theme come in during this conversation.
This entire scene is just like I know that I get that people hated the Ralph Boner twist, let's call it. Like I get that, but to me this is like playing the long game. Like to me this is worth that twist. Like it really hammers it in home. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. If this doesn't do anything for looking back on WandaVision for you, I get it, but I thought this was absolutely incredible.
It was definitely surprising. I did see that people were putting out a clip, not a clip, but like the scene of like who is this masked figure. Really had no idea, and it really wasn't a spoiler to me because there wasn't much there for me to go on, and I was not expecting Ralph Boner or Randall to make his return.
I was hoping that that's who they were going to talk to. I had already said out loud while watching it, I hope it's Ralph Boner, but I really didn't expect it to be.
Yeah, so this is when Billy learns that Agatha's still in Westview under her spell, and Billy thinks she's harmless. And he goes, "You seriously don't know what kind of crazy that lady eats for breakfast," Randall says. He said, like, if you want to know more, he's going to need either cash or offers half-off tickets for a show that he's putting on. He's just wanting to fill the seats.
His one-man show.
So Billy's father, they come home and he goes to the mom and dad check in. How you doing? Good. We're just going upstairs. Cool. Whatever. To do homework. Instead of watching a psychological thriller movie that his mom offers. So Billy's listening to Lorna Woo's version of the Ballad of the Witch's Road. That's interesting. Yep. As he jots down notes about Wanda, Vision, Tommy, and Billy. He doodles the sigil on a sticky note surrounded by numbers and letters, starting with a 2, W, N, and an M if looked at counterclockwise from the top left corner. He circles his note that Agatha Harkness is still in Westview. There are 2 notes near the sigil drawings on the wall. The first one says permanent sigils, and it says which are active for long periods of time. Sigils can be made into art pieces or hidden in other objects, can be recharged and to strengthen and revitalize the active energy. This is what Lilia did with that sigil. But next to that, there's another note that says destructible sigils are activated by being destroyed and creates a burst of energy that gives the sigil power. They can be written, carved, or singed the sigil onto paper, wood, or food or objects, and to be destroyed by fire or force. So it's interesting. We've got two different versions of sigils being discussed here.
Right. Yep.
So the search for Agatha Harkness begins, and yields a "Did you mean Agatha Harper?" on his I don't know what they call it. It's not Google, obviously. It was some kind of search, MCU search engine.
Their version of Google. Yeah.
Yeah. So he finds her photo from looking up witches who survived the Salem witch trials. On the webpage, she is described as the only known survivor of the Witches' Road. She's also apparently been seen basically being linked to the Hindenburg disaster, and apparently she is who Jolene is, where Dolly Parton's song about who stole her man.
I mean, Agatha probably cheated.
Yeah.
She probably used magic.
But don't you think, interestingly enough, if she's there, who else might be there with Agatha?
I mean, there's a number of people, but I don't know.
Rio?
The thing is with Rio, we don't really know where their timeline is, like when they come in and out. So I don't know. I right now my big question with Rio is where is she in the present day? Yeah.
So he reads about the book, and the witch may discover what's missing if they go down at the end of the Witch's Road. He looks at the note that Tommy Maximoff is missing, and everything starts clicking. He wants to look for his brother.
Mm-hmm.
The record twirling looks like a lot like that in the trial of the 4th episode. As Lorna croons on, it says, "I'll see you at the end." Billy drives to Westview. He looks up a release spell to release Agatha from the hex, and which requires a personal item. And what personal item does he take?
He ends up taking the pendant, the locket.
Yep, the brooch. And so he stares up at the house and breaks in, takes the brooch, and that's when the whole thing starts mirroring the first episode. But he does, yeah, sort of in different ways. But he does get that text message from Eddie, and reads, "You're my black heart emoji."
Yes. So now there have been two different people who have referenced black hearts. Billy is is Eddie's black heart, and then Rio said her heart was black for Agatha.
And also Sharon Davis said black heart as well.
Oh, I'm forgetting that one then.
So Billy crawls, gets, like I said, broke in, steals a brooch, knocks over the lamp. The scene where she's chasing him replays, and he checks to see if she's okay, and begs her not to call the police because he can't have a criminal record. He says he'll stop if she stops. Then he runs into the open front door of Sharon Davis's white Mercedes.
Little different than how Agatha saw it.
Exactly.
Of Sharon running him over with the car.
Yeah. She calls him hooligan.
And I like how in the real world of it, what really happened from Billy's perspective, it's far less epic of a chase on Agatha's part. They're both just hobbling along because they fell off the roof of the house and they're both hurting.
So back at her house, Agatha's still in detective mode, wears a Boner Family Reunion Pitch a Tent t-shirt.
Pitch a Tent, yes, absolutely.
So yes, Randall's not kidding. She stole his house.
Did you catch what her gun was?
It was like a little water gun or something.
It was like the garden hose, the nozzle of a garden hose.
Okay, nozzle of a garden hose. I couldn't tell. I thought it was like a toy water gun, but yes. So she has a pair of pliers in her pocket as well.
Sure. Who doesn't?
I came here with an unorthodox spell to release you, Billy tells her. Can we maybe not with the physical violence as she hits him on the way to get him a glass of water? He plays along with her detective bit. I feel like you typecast me as the mouthy teen that didn't kill the victim, she said. This interrogation, which took place in her home, not at a police station, was what she envisioned happening. Hence the painting on the wall between them. She completely made up Billy's goth teen attitude. Then she puts the photos of the flowers down on the table, and he points it out. So we heard that in the first
And we
episode.
actually saw it. Like,
Yep.
you see him first as Wanda, and then when they cut back to him, they're the flowers again.
Yep. Then she looks at a painting and then he chants the release bell. Agatha duct tapes his wrists and mouth and throws him into the closet. Billy says that power is what I'm missing. He said the first time when she asked him who he was, my name is William Kaplan. Then she asked him to say it again, and he says, I'm Billy Maximoff. So we finally get towards the end of this episode, the official, even though we knew it all this time, he is Billy Maximoff.
Yes.
So back to the Witch's Road. Agatha crawls out of the mud that Billy previously sunk her into in episode 5. Slug streaming off of her, she wipes it from her face and finds Teen looking at the wooden sigil, crushing in his hand, signifying that the spell is no longer needed. He no longer wears the blue crown as well. So we'll talk about that in a second. What did you think about that? All of a sudden, like, she just crawls out. Does that mean the other witches are crawling out too?
That is my looking at, the Eddie versus Teddy name aside, like the Agatha
you
crawling
mean Eddie.
out. I don't mean that. Agatha crawling out like that was like my only real criticism of this episode. It just seemed too easy. Now that
I know
said,
that's yeah.
If nobody else has survived the Witch's Road but Agatha, and she's never gone down that before, I get why they all presumed that they were dying. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not what they suspected. Clearly, things on the Witch's Road are not what you think they are. So
Yes.
I'm fine with it. It just is not at all what I expected.
Yeah, so that was quite a debut, she says. Powers is what I'm missing, hardly. So Billy asks her when she figured out his true identity. She says he and his mother have a very obvious tell. She said, I wasn't sure until your explosive magic imitation. It's nice to see you again, Billy. So I'm thinking the tell was how he kind of does his little hand spell movements. That's his tell.
Yeah, like that's probably right. Because if it's not that, I don't know what else it would be. And if it's not that, they didn't tell us what it is.
Pun intended.
Yes. No, but I'll take it.
He says, Billy, William, you can hear me now, as Agatha looks to be tearing up. Ah, Lilia and Jen, what you did was life goes on. She counts how many people she's killed. I'm not like you, Billy says, to which she responds, where have I heard that before? Where has she heard that before?
That's straight out of Wanda.
Yeah, that's Wanda. Agatha asks how he came by the fresh body he's wearing. Don't you dare, and this was interesting. She's like, don't you dare feel guilty about your talent. You survived like witches have been doing for centuries. You saw an empty vessel and moved in, so you broke the rules. That's what kept you alive. That's what makes you special, a witch. I did like her saying that because she she is an antagonist in this at this point. We're not sure to place her. She is a villain, but she's coming off more like antagonist. But she's propping him up, like saying, "No, you should be proud of what you did. Like you didn't ruin this boy's life. He was dead. He was dead.
Yes. Right. He gave a gift to the kid's parents by they still get to have their son as far as they know, and he was dead. Like it's not like he pushed somebody's soul out of their body.
He didn't basically Wonder Woman 1984 it.
Right. Did not do that.
Did not Steve Trevor this.
Oh God. just move on.
Yeah, okay. He acts like he doesn't need her anymore, and it is fine to finish the trials on his own. He says, I don't know if I ever did, but he can't even cast his blue magic, and Agatha laughs. So Billy admits he can't fully control his powers right now.
Right. Which kind of makes sense because he's never really had training and is just coming into it.
Yeah. So what does Billy Maximoff want at the end of the road? Big magic is already in the bag, Agatha says. Is it to find Mama? No, she chose a tower of strangers over her own flesh and blood.
Flesh
What
and
about
wires. She said
yeah,
flesh and wires.
flesh and wires? Excuse me, flesh and wire. What about Robo Papa? Who knows where he is and in how many pieces? Who's left? She speculates. You're after Toby, she says, and she's Tommy. He corrects. He's out there. I can sense him. Billy tells Agatha he does not trust her ever, and she says, "Got it. Let's go find the next trial. Last one there is a nice person, and now the road is yellow." So I want to point out something, though. This is something I've kind of reflected on, and I want you to see. This is probably nothing more than just, is everything connected? Is this just happy coincidence? Each trial, interesting enough, the colors, they also represent the colors of how each of the Infinity Stones were found in the MCU. Blue, we started with blue, the Tesseract, Captain America 1. Red, the Ether, Thor, the Dark World. Purple, the Power Stone, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Yellow, which we're heading to now, the Mind Stone in Avengers Age of Ultron. Next we have green, Doctor Strange, no, first Doctor Strange, and then orange, the Soul Stone in Infinity War. I'm not saying I'm not trying to find coincidence where it exists, but it's a little interesting we're using that order. You're muted.
It is there for sure, but I don't know. It's not the first time that the Infinity Stones have been invoked because someone saw the colors and thought that. So it's in the category of I wouldn't automatically discount it, but I wouldn't put too much on it at this time. So
I just thought it was interesting. Now. So, but yeah, it's so. Did this episode change my opinion on this show? Yes, it did.
Very nice.
I'm very much sold, and so my question is: with 3 episodes left, can Agatha Allong stick the landing? Because this episode took it to a whole new level.
We will
with this one.
3 more episodes, so 2 more weeks of it.
I'm saying Rio's coming back next week.
I hope so. Because
I'm pretty confident she's going to be coming back next week. My question is, are Lilia and Jen coming back?
I guess.
I'm thinking because we haven't had Lilia's trial.
There's no reason for us to assume they're dead.
I don't think they are.
Agatha didn't do anything that they didn't do. It's not like she cast a spell or something like that as she was going under. At least not that we've been shown at this point.
Because Lilia hasn't had her trial yet, and I think yellow would be her trial. Green would be Rio, but I'm also saying the idea that she's the Green Witch / possibly Death. But the orange trial, well, Agatha's already had her trial. Billy's doing blue, but he really hasn't had trial, so I guess orange would be his trial.
He also wasn't considered a member of the Coven, so he may
True.
not.
So who's the trial? What's this orange trial for?
Good question.
You know. So, but
maybe,
all right.
I mean, at this point, maybe Billy is going to be adopted into the Coven now.
Yeah.
That Agatha has declared him not just a familiar, but a witch.
Yeah. So, but we'll see. So, but yeah. So we will circle back to these ideas as we head into the next episode next week. So we'll take our final ad break for the evening. Listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They can be a bit loud. Give you that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so put the Spidey signal up as you usually do, Brent. What questions do we have from the listeners this week?
Yeah, we had one from Omari come in. Let me get to that. He says, what MCU films do you feel are the most underappreciated? I think Captain America, the First Avenger, often is overlooked now that we have Winter Soldier and Civil War, but it's such a great film and I love the 40 settings. Plus, Star Spangled is incredibly catchy.
Interesting. Why don't you start off? I've got to think a little bit on this one.
Well, out of the gate, Captain America: The First Avenger, I think, is historically the single most overlooked movie of the entire MCU. I think that movie was massively slept on until the Avengers came out, and then people went back and discovered it. So yes, people love it now, but I do think a lot of people missed out originally with that movie, and I would absolutely echo what Omari says. It's a fantastic movie. Do I like the other two Cap movies more? I do, but that's not anything that it's doing wrong so much as just how much more I think those elevated the game. But First Avenger is fantastic. As far as other ones,
I've got one. If you need a chance to think,
go ahead.
The Incredible Hulk.
Great example. Yes, great example. Didn't do very well theatrically. Came out the same year as the first Iron Man, but that is a fun movie for sure.
And especially that people really. I notice more people who aren't high up on the MCU. Many people in our circles, maybe mutuals at that point. But I prop up the show a lot. Not the show. I prop up the movie a lot with them. But I notice a lot more people who are so on the MCU really put the Incredible Hulk high up on their list of favorite movies.
That does happen. I'll be honest. A lot of the times that just feels like people trying to be very contrarian, but it is a good movie. So I mean, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. Oh, let me see. Let's see. Oh, I had another answer. I got it. It was Spider-Man: Far From Home. I think it often gets overlooked as well. When you look at the Spider-Man trilogy, people talk about Spider-Man: Homecoming being, Spider-Man: Homecoming is the grounded Spider-Man movie that so many of us would like for the next one as well. Like, it is a grounded movie, right?
Yep.
And then, no puns intended, I guess, there with the Vulture, but Spider-Man: No Way Home is the total opposite with multiversal shenanigans going on. Far From Home is just kind of in the middle there. It takes place right after Avengers Endgame. It came out right after Avengers Endgame. It's weird to say for being a Spider-Man movie, but it does kind of feel like it's the overlooked one.
I would also put Thor on that list.
Sure. The first one, I assume,
the first one, just because of how what we've got having Thor now, it's almost like many people have almost forgotten where Thor was when Kenneth Branagh directed that and the establishment of who he was. And actually, I said this in our Infinity Saga review that's one of Erin's favorite movies of the MCU. Like, I was very surprised at how high she ranks that movie in her rankings. So
I'm gonna give one more.
Okay.
Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings.
Okay.
But I don't think it's overlooked by the fans that much. I think it's overlooked by Marvel themselves, because what are they doing not prioritizing getting another one of those out?
Or that Ten Ring show we still haven't gotten yet.
Or the Ten Rings, like any follow-up to this movie. Because it really does seem like the fans really enjoyed that movie. Right? Like, sure, some people might have this criticism or that criticism, but on the whole, most people really enjoyed it. And so I don't get... I don't know. I don't get what... Kevin Feige, you are overlooking that movie.
You know what I realized we didn't do?
What?
We never said at the end of our Deadpool and Wolverine review where it ranks. I honestly don't think we did.
I don't know why you just thought of that.
I'm looking at my letterbox when I'm trying to answer Omari's question just to jog my memory on a few things, but I looked at it and said, it is random. So I say we just talk about it right now real quick at that point.
Okay. I don't even know if I ever put it in our ranking.
Oh, okay. Well, I know I've put it in, and I'm still...
Did you put it on the Fox movies or the X-Men movies?
It's MCU.
Because parts of it are MCU, but an awful lot of it's also Fox. And I did rank it there, which it's number one, no question.
It's a Marvel Studios film. It's MCU.
Okay.
That's where I'm saying. You can put it where you want. I'm going to
change the name of my rankings to Sacred Timeline.
Brent's all very much about details right now. So
I mean, I can set 3, 6. I have it at 10.
You have it at 10?
I have it at 10.
Okay. I do not have it that high. I have it at number 19.
Okay.
It is behind Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and ahead of Hawkeye. So, Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fifth of Jack says, along with the second Hulk movie, it gets overlooked with how bad the first movie was. I enjoyed what Norton brought to the table. Second Hulk movie is not overlooked. There's business reasons why that's not happening because
Yeah.
distribution's still with Universal. I do genuinely believe that movie would have happened years ago if the Universal didn't have the first right of refusal on distributing it.
And also, if rumors are to be believed, where we're headed to after Captain America: Brave New World.
I wouldn't be terribly shocked if someday we have a movie titled Avengers World War Hulk. Except for I don't think they can put Hulk in the title, so I don't know
World War Hulks.
There you go. I don't know how they're going to get around that, but I think we will see that story somehow or some sort of, but it'll be through an Avengers title.
Yeah. So we shall see. But thank you for your question, Amari. And all right, let's head to fact or fiction. So my facts and fictions from last week. Number one, Avengers Secret Wars will follow Avengers Endgame's lead and not have a mid or post credit scene. 89% said fact, 11% said fiction. Number two, in Daredevil Born Again, we will see at most 2 different suits that Daredevil will wear. 76% said fact, 24% said fiction. And number 3, Null and Eddie Venom won't personally interact in Venom: The Last Dance. 74% said fact, 26% said fiction. Any other way? There's plenty more Eddie where that comes from.
Oh my gosh, we have a whole movie of this coming up.
I've got to find some enjoyment in it.
Oh my gosh, it's like a turd in the wind.
Oh, I love that line. I'm sorry. I unapologetically love that line.
I
It represents the franchise.
I hate that line. It's like what happens to a toad when it's hit by lightning? Like I just think it's so bad.
It is so bad. It's so random.
Brock
Anyways,
says he can feel that Brent dies a little every time Chris says Eddie. Yeah.
Chris' heart grows every time I say it.
Yeah. Angel loses its wings or whatever.
Exactly. So, all right, Brent, your turn this week. So this will be probably the last factor fiction for next week or so.
This will be the last one before the end of Agatha.
Yeah.
And my answer to this first one changed after this episode.
Okay.
There will be one more performance, one and only one performance of the ballad in Agatha.
In addition to what we've heard?
Yeah, like one. There will be one more, but only one performance of the ballad in Agatha.
I'll go with fact. Yeah.
See, I used to be fact, and I'm a fiction now because we heard it again this past week. And technically, it's the version that they were trying to do a cover of in Alice's trial. But I'm like, no, it still sounded. I think we're done. I don't think we're going to hear it again.
Okay.
But that's so. I'm a fiction on that one.
All right.
Because we don't truly know what her end game is, pun intended. Agatha wants the Darkhold at the end of the trial, at the end of the road.
She wants the Darkhold.
Yes.
So it's none of this Nicholas Scratch. That's basically a red herring and a misdirect.
I think she's going after the Darkhold.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, if it's the source of her real abilities at that point, because she wants her abilities, that's the way she gets her abilities back. Yeah, I could see it. So yeah, I'll buy it.
And kind of wavering back and forth between these two. I'll go with this one. Tommy will appear in Agatha.
So we have not officially heard of a casting for Tommy or anyone that no one's mentioned someone that's been cast and hinting towards Tommy. So that's who he wants.
We may not need to have heard of a casting.
Yeah.
Record. He could be played by the same person.
That's true, but why did you do that and not the other one? Because they both would match up very well.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying.
I don't know either. And again, not taking away from
because they're fraternal twins there, identical twins in the present day.
Yeah.
Things change when you take over somebody's body.
They do. Yeah, I'm a fact. I'm not a really strong fact on that one, but I can be pushed that way.
I'm a fact on it, and I don't think I actually answered the Agatha Darkhold one, but I'm a fact on that as well.
Okay. I'm gonna throw one out there
Sure,
because since
because this is it.
this is it, this is everything we're gonna do. So Agatha all along will have an end credit scene that will lead into the Vision Quest show.
Fact. They've told us it's a trilogy. Fact.
Yeah, yeah, I could see it. I could also see this show not having an end credit scene. You know?
I think it'll have one. I
Yeah,
bet it has one.
yeah.
I
So
don't. I don't think they're going to avoid credit scenes. Going. I mean, obviously, we're not getting them every episode, but
yeah.
we will have one.
Okay, yeah. I'm a fact on this one too, but I'll get it out there. I have another Agatha related one, but it's not going to be anything that's contingent on that it can be easily done at the end.
I
So
have a Wanda related one, and it's kind of in the same way.
gotcha. Okay. All right. So we will put all four of those factor fictions out there on Sunday afternoon. Let your voices be heard. We'll revisit those after next 2 weeks with after Agatha all along. We'll see exactly if some of our predictions came true. We know Brent's long game did.
Yeah, I understated it. It was more like 70.
Oof.
I went back and actually looked at the
Hey,
numbers.
inch or a mile, winning's winning.
That's right.
So hashtag family.
Always.
All right, so let us get back to Comic Book Club. Young Avengers #4. Gracing the cover is Kang the Conqueror. This is all Kang all the time. This comic issue. So, what do you think of this one, Brent?
Um, it doesn't go the way you would expect. Like, sure, King starts fighting with him at first, but it's not often you hear people later on down the line say, maybe King is right. Maybe you do need to go back with him. And it's just not what we would expect from our heroes.
Especially Kang getting taken down. Jessica Jones just showed up Kang, and good on her.
Hey, don't piss off a pregnant woman with
Don't,
superpowers.
don't exactly.
No good comes of that.
Absolutely. It was just one of those things that you don't expect coming. It's just like it's poetic that the man who has all these technology advance, all these different powers and abilities, and you get taken down by Jessica Jones. So good on her. Love it.
She went mama bear on him.
Exactly. And he basically tells him, like you said, like if I don't bring my younger version back, the ramifications to your current timeline are very dire.
And even shows like some buildings look like they're falling over and falling down. He's like, look, it's already happening at one point.
Yeah, it's like Tony's armor is very much hodgepodge put together. I almost want to say Cap's uniform is
It
more,
changes as well. Yep.
yeah, changes dark. Jessica Jones' pregnancy is no longer there. She's in her original costume.
Yep.
So that's kind of it's almost like Kang's also very good at manipulating. So
Oh yeah.
you're very. Do we really believe he's not influencing what they're seeing and sensing?
I mean, he's probably pulling a Mysterio in this case, and has some I don't know, holograms or something going into effect there. But regardless, Jewel, I mean, she's in her Jewel costume.
Yeah.
Jessica Jones doesn't feel her pregnancy at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, going back to where our young Avengers are locked up into the training room, what'd you think of that kind of whole sequence back and forth? Personally, I really did enjoy Kate Bishop taking a combination of Hawkeye and Mockingbird.
Yes. Hawkingbird, they called her.
Mockingbird, yeah.
Yeah, and I like how they're so confident that they'll be fine. It's still part of the training exercise. Eli, he knows what's up. Patriot knows what's up. He's like, no, they screwed us. They locked us in here.
But I also like them start calling out Patriot for saying, I thought you had super strength when he's trying to open up the door. And that's when people start thinking, what's going on with you, bud?
They're realizing they don't all know each other's powers that well. Patriot says to Hulkling, I thought you had super strength. Hulkling says, Patriot, I thought you had super strength.
Uh-huh. And, but yeah, they eventually find a way out of there and basically wander into where the Tony, Cap, Jessica, and Kang are.
Yep, and they have a little bit of a discussion of whether or not Iron Lad needs to go back. Oh, we should mention that when Kate Bishop came out with the Hawkingbird costume, if
Yep.
you will, she had the old style Captain America shield to hand to Patriot.
Yes. she did at that point. So you got to have a shield if you're going to be representing the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we get Hulkling revealed to be a shapeshifter. However, you and I know who he really is. They just see him as a shapeshifter.
Right, right. And we should leave it at that.
Yeah, we will leave it at that for right now. But Kang and Kang basically takes over Iron Lad's armor, reminding him you base this off my tech. I control it. I can do whatever I want with it at that point. So either you fall in line, or I continue to make you harm your friends. And that's where we leave off.
That's where we leave off. And if you look at the preview for next week's cover, it is just a beautiful piece of art.
Yes, it is. You got it.
I guess it's not next week, so it's in a couple weeks.
A couple weeks, yeah. So we're going to take a break from Comic Book Love Cat Factor Fiction until after the season finale of Agatha All Along, just because of it's a 2-episode thing. That's what that episode's going to be focused on mainly, also due to the time that it's falling of the year. Mm-hmm. So we'll get into that next week. We'll talk to you all about what the schedule's going to be like for that. But yeah, so volume 233 in the books. Great episode of Agatha. Good discussions in the chat. So, but yeah. So, I see Piffa Jack said his copy of the Omnibus finally shipped next week. Yep, it's going to be a good one. That's gotta love that Omnibus. It has the first arc and the Children's Crusade in it.
Oh my gosh, it's got them both.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is in my opinion
geez. I will not blame you, Piffa Jack, if you've read the whole thing between now and then. I will not blame you one bit.
Yep. That Children's Crusade is going to be very good. So yeah, so it has both in there. And that artwork, just in that oversized format, is so worth it. Mm-hmm. So, but all right. Well, so yeah, we will see you for a double dose of Marvel Alliance next Friday. So again, remember, no live show Thursday. We're doing Agatha offline. That'll drop Saturday morning, and then we go live with Venom: The Last Dance spoiler review around 9:10ish. We might be a little late, just depending on how quickly we can wrap up our review, and we'll get there. And we will see you on the other side of Venom: The Last Dance. It's
yep.
We're gonna dance our way. We're gonna dance our way into the theater and probably dance our way out of the theater. Brent can't wait.
How long is it?
Isn't it under 2 hours? Is it 2 hours exactly? It's definitely not over.
1 hour is 50 minutes according to Google.
There we go. Wait for Sony to go Sonying.
You know what? Realistically, just because it's shorter, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes it's a blessing.
Yeah, we haven't seen that work out pretty well for right now.
Maybe not in comic book movies, but I've seen it work out in other movies.
Oh, I've seen it work out this, but usually the shorter films have not typically done the best. So, and Sony's track record is pretty suspect, in my opinion. Anyways, Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Brentak Prime on the socials. Mostly spending my time over on Twitter, but I'm still popping into threads and stuff like that as well.
He's creeping into people's DMs, right?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but...
You can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow me personally at Chris Balga. You can email the show at marvelalliance@podcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. You feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions for us to answer on the show. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance Solo Feed GUA Network feed on any of your podcatchers of choice. As always, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. And we want to thank everyone for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers.
Oh my God, no.
All right, Brent. Let's make some predictions for Venom: The Last Dance.
Tom Holland appears, but not just as a picture.
Oh.
I think he's in the credit scene.
Okay, so they're gonna.
I think Sony is getting their wish and is going to have Venom. I think he's going to the Sacred Timeline. Is he not necessarily moving there permanently, but I think he'll be visiting there.
Yeah, I don't like it. I especially don't like what I'm hearing is possibly going to be happening. I'm gonna say I'm not gonna let that affect my predictions and put spoiler stuff out there. Um, but yeah, it's this wouldn't affect his contract, the supposed contract we know because it was an MCU related contract. So Sony could get this going if they're trying to make it happen in the
I mean,
MCU.
it would just take them working with Marvel, with
Yeah,
Marvel Studios, and if the next Spider-Man movie really does involve symbiotes, it's not that big of a leap. It's not
yeah.
that big of a swing. So that is my biggest prediction. I guess it's a two-parter. Venom ends up in the sacred timeline one way or the other, and Spider-Man appears in new footage, not just a picture on the TV.
I will say that we will get we will not have Morbius show up. We will not have Craven show up. We will not have Michael Keaton show up. There will be no other connections to the other past disasters that and definitely no Madam Web.
No, no, Madam Web.
But
No,
but in seriousness, um, it's one of those where I do not think to your all this stuff about making it seem like Eddie and the symbiote dying, Eddie dying. Yeah, that's not happening. They're gonna make some maybe they may do that thinking like all of a sudden, oh my god, he died or the symbiote's gone.
the
Yeah, by the end of
symbiote
the
will
movie,
revive him.
whatever it happens, it's gonna be a misdirect. It's gonna be fine. They're gonna even if it's an end credit scene stuff like that, it always comes back. Here's something I want to put out there, and this is just because I it's not a spoiler, but I saw something that made me think, could they be doing this too? This is not any kind of footage or anything I say. I just thought about it because I thought about something that was very interesting in one of the trailers, and I said, could we see anti Venom in this?
I think it's plausible. I saw some people like I saw what looked like fan art of Anti Venom
Mm-hmm.
combined with the movie version of Venom, but what I saw was clearly nothing official. So,
Yeah.
and I don't begrudge some fan art. That's cool and all, and it was a cool piece, but it'd be neat to see. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest, it would be cool to see it.
I'm still sticking my factor of fiction that Null and Eddie will not meet at all.
Well, not meet
Like
at all.
no, not meet at
I
all.
agree
No,
with you.
period.
Not in this movie. Probably in Spider-Man 4, based on what we're hearing. But
Um,
I agree with you on that.
but here's the other thing, and they talked about this, our brothers over at Geekverse, the idea that will we even hear Null speak at all? Like, is it just going to be like this shadowy figure in the background of where we'll just see like this little footage here and there, and he's just like the boogeyman? That we have no freaking clue. The general audience is gonna be like, they keep on talking about these Null characters. We didn't see him we saw him like one or two times, and I don't even know what he is.
I hadn't considered the fact that he might not speak at all. Has it been confirmed who's playing him?
No,
Like I know there was the thing about Norman Reedus, but that was
never been
not
confirmed. No voice has been confirmed. No actor has been confirmed.
He's played by.
Played by Reddit.
That's that's a really interesting thought. Will he even speak at all? I like it.
Because then at that point, it's the
As a prediction.
minions.
I
It's
hope
the
he does.
minions of Null coming down. So like we're building to the King in Black. But it's as I said before. When my problem with this movie. Uh oh.
Problem with the movie. Problem with the
Whoa.
movie.
Whoa.
Sorry, I don't
Look,
want
Just
look, man!
barging
This
in?
is yeah.
Some do. I'm here. Some do with Spider-Man. I don't know. That's all I'm here.
Look who's joined the podcaster of mischief, joining at the end credits.
All right.
It's always
Good
a
show, guys. See you later.
surprise. See ya. No.
What you got to say?
Nothing. I'll save anything I have to say for next week because I can only talk about Venom and Sony movies so many times. But I want to ask you guys this: do you think it'll be it'll pass for you guys? And where do you think it's going to rank in your rankings overall?
I don't know, because I could tell you I think it's going to rank number 6 on my Sony movies, and I could just tell you guys it's number 6, and like that's too arbitrary. Pass fail. Honestly, I probably would pass it. That because what is the last? Like I'd have to really think about the last comic book movie that I really failed. Now I could
Madam
name
Web.
a
Madam
couple.
Web?
Madam Web was a notorious one.
Madam
I
Web was
surprised
that
how
one.
Negative, yeah.
And then for a movie going before that, especially a Marvel movie, I mean, you can maybe call Secret Invasion a fail only because, but it wasn't a movie. Shoot, what was it? I'm trying to think of
And,
what.
and I personally don't. I mean,
When did
Love and
Joker
Thun-
come out? There's a lot of talk about that. I hated the first movie. I mean, I realized that wasn't actually Joker. It was Arthur Fleck, and
No,
he
it's
didn't
not.
want to make a
Apparently, if
Joker.
you ask Todd Phillips, never was.
Yeah,
He said it back then. He wasn't making a Joker movie. He skinned it just because he thought that's how he could sell it.
and I don't even fail Love and Thunder. I still find there's good in that movie that I don't fail on that
I
one.
like how I forgot about Madam Web though.
I'm
No,
surprised.
honestly,
You
I'd
burned that to the
be
ground.
shocked. I mean, I don't even think I would have considered failed. When I reviewed Venom 1, we didn't talk past fail, but I don't think I would have failed it. And I had lots of problems with that movie. I've softened on it over time because it can only hurt me so much. But
I'll say that Madam Web will still be the bigger fail. This Venom will still rank above Madam Web.
I mean, I liked Let There Be Carnage more than the first Venom.
See, I didn't.
No, I did not. My last question: are any of you buying the popcorn bucket?
No.
No,
Okay,
not if I can avoid it.
that's all I thought.
see
Have a good night.
you, Travis. I did have from our friend.
It does look good though. The popcorn bucket does look. I'm truly out of space for those things.
I do. The only popcorn bucket I own is thanks to our good friend Scott McClellan. He graciously sent me the Batman Signal popcorn bucket because that sucker lights up, and I want my Batman Signal.
That looked awesome.
It is amazing.
I am
looking at
like,
her.
I am like out of space for pop sockets for popcorn buckets, and that includes 3 of them being in my son's bedroom
Yep.
that
so,
we've bought.
but nice. Thank you, Travis, for surprising joining us at that point. And but we will see you all next week for Agatha and Venom, The Last Dance City.
Oh my god.
Bye bye.